Lovely to have you with us this morning. We've got Christopher Eccleston, who plays Morris, joined by the show's writer, Peter Boker. Thank you very much for coming in. It's been a while, isn't it? But did you ever think when you first started this you'd be back for Series 3 of such a greatly loved show?
No, I mean, we always hoped we would, but, to be honest, I was just pleased we were getting away with it for one series. So, no, it's been fantastic that people have liked it enough that we've come back again, yeah.
And it's lovely. It got so much praise, didn't it, right at the start for the way it deals with autism as well. When you first saw the script, what did you think? I mean, it's a while back now.
Yeah, I'd worked with Pete before on a project called Flesh and Blood, which involved some similar themes, so I was very excited about it, apart from the fact that I had to play a granddad.
Yeah.
That was a phone call I don't want to relive.
You say you don't want to relive it. How do you do that? Do you tell him about the part first and then say you're a granddad?
Don't I? Because we're on breakfast telly. Yeah. I said, you might want to tell me to... Yeah. But how do you feel about playing the granddad? Because I know Chris is great at comedy, but I also know I wanted the idea of an older man, a patriarch, who was also still physically vital. Before that, I'd worked with people like Bernard Hill and so on. And then it's Chris Eccleston on top of that. So in terms of, the irritation factor, I think that was enormous.
The frustrations.
Yeah.
Physically vital. You could put that on your CV. That sounds good.
Yeah, but it was 5 years ago, the first series.
There's
been a decline.
Was that the first time you played a granddad?
It was, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, went straight from Juve lead to granddads.
And just to go back to what I was saying about how it was widely praised, how rewarding was that when that first went out?
It's lovely. I a bit like Morris, I run a lot, so I'm out in public and I get stopped about the A word as much as I do about Doctor Who. I do, because it seems that autism or Down syndrome touches every part of society. So I'm forever being stopped and asked to talk about it, and I usually ring Pete and let him speak to the writer. I do, yeah.
Do you stop?
Often people in tears.
I get phone calls from strangers in tears.
Or voice messages.
Thank you.
Well, because as an actor, you're the face of it, but he's the fella who's responsible for it.
No.
And tell us a bit about, we saw a bit about Ralph, so played by Leon Harrop. So how much of a focus is he in the series and the wedding? Well,
in this series, I've recalibrated it slightly. So it's sorting out who's going to be in which scene where and who's available and all the rest of it.
The invites. As in any wedding.
It's terrible, the invites, Pete, for a wedding.
It's like running a wedding, and who's going to be there and who isn't.
You got new characters as well in this series?
Yes, Julie Hesenhall is coming into. There's a story based around Joe's relationship with his teacher at the specialist unit he attends, and Julie plays the teacher rather brilliantly, and she is so good. In fact, the school where we film, Ashgate School in Manchester, a specialist unit, said they'd offer her a job tomorrow. Julie's force of nature. She just went in there and utterly believable. As a teacher with those children and improvisation with the children and so on,
When Louise was talking about autism, when people stop you in the street, do they talk about the importance of representation as well, and being able to sort of see themselves and see people that they know playing those characters on screen?
That's exactly what they say. They say it's so good to see our story told, and they'll usually say to me, well, it's not exactly my story, but that happened to us and that happened to us, and it is that thing, that claiming of recognition, being recognised. And what people love about it is that Pete doesn't soapbox with it. There's humour, and it's just part of an everyday experience. It's reality, really, rather than diversity.
Peter, I want to just ask you about that question about having Max Venter, he's not on the autistic spectrum, and that was the sort of, you went through that in a. Tell me about your thought processes.
Well, it's because he was a 5-year-old child, and I thought it would be too much pressure on a 5-year-old child on the spectrum to then be playing someone on the spectrum when your sense of self might not be as highly developed as a 5-year-old child on the spectrum. We have an older actor, character, Mark, who has autism, who's played by a brilliant actor called Travis, who is in fact autistic, and I would always do that, but it just felt too young. That felt very vulnerable. He has experience of autism through family, I think.
Right.
And we were looking back at some clips from the first series last night, and I mean, he was tiny. He was a baby.
Five is tiny, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think the demand would have been so great. But generally speaking, I would always want, to cast somebody with that disability, to play somebody with that disability.
Should we have another look at a clip from the new series? What did you call it? Physically Vital. This is you being physically vital.
I love this. I love it because it's really funny and it even makes you laugh.
Yeah. But she's saying something.
Yeah, the timing.
Well, the writers here.
Yeah, it's about...
He's not in control of the timing, though, is he?
It's Leon's comic timing,
It's Leon.
isn't it?
It's watching Leon's performance, and we were talking last night at an event, watching Leon grow as an actor and become more and more confident over the series, because Leon's grown up as well, hasn't he, during it.
Yeah.
And it's a clever thing. Sometimes pauses are the most effective thing in life, aren't they?
Yeah, and seeing Leon get the recognition for his abilities and his timing, his comic timing.
Yeah.
It's just essentially, it's just funny, isn't it? And like you say, it's normal, and you can watch that, and you see yourself in that, don't you?
Yeah. Well, that's what I hope. Yeah, that's and just to say about Leon and Chris's relationship, that's one of the things as a writer you kind of seize on. I saw they had a kind of double act emerging, and then you just write to it because they can both do it so brilliantly.
It's lovely. Thank you both very much indeed. We better leave you to go and be physically vital.
Oh, yeah.
And go out on one of your...
We'll do it very slowly.
How far do you run normally? How far do you run? Depends on how many people stop.
I only do 6 miles now, and I only do it 3 times a week. That's about as physically vital as I. He's the runner.
Not bad for a grandad, that one.
Thank you.
Thanks both.
Thank you.
The A Word returns BBC One in the spring. Thanks both very much
It's
indeed.
Series 3 as well. Lovely to have you on this morning. Thank you.